I was listening to an Anthropic engineer at the AI Code Summit, and I learned something I really didn't expect, because according to what they said, almost everyone is using Claude Code the wrong way. Yes, you heard that right. Everyone is using Claude Code incorrectly. What they're saying is basically this: everyone is using the wrong prompts, prompting incorrectly. So I decided to dive a little bit deeper into this topic. I examined everything Anthropic engineers shared about how they use prompting. I went through all the videos and documents, and I've extracted 4 rules from them. And in this video, I'm going to show them to you. You don't need any technical knowledge to apply these rules. Let me list them for you, then we'll go step by step. 1. Skills 1. Anthropic engineers are prompting skills. They don't write prompts for Claude Code. You'll understand what that means. 2. Skills are much more than just prompts. 3. They build composable skills and they don't build custom skills. So I'll explain what that is. And 4. Skills get smarter with every session. Now we've come to the first rule. We said Anthropic engineers prompt skills, not Claude. Now, when everyone starts using AI, what they're actually trying to do is write a new prompt. Sometimes we write incredibly large and detailed prompts, but what Anthropic engineers do is actually quite different, because usually what we do with AI are repetitive and routine tasks. That's exactly why Anthropic engineers came up with Claude Skills. Claude Skills was created to solve this problem. By their definition, skills are file structures that collect composable procedural knowledge for agents. Now, that might sound very technical, but don't worry. In other words, these are actually just folders. And inside this folder, there's information on how to best perform the task you've defined. That's why you need to change your mindset. What's needed is to actually switch to skill prompting with a skill logic. How can I explain this? I know it sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say an email. To reply to an email, you write a very nice long prompt saying, give a reply in this tone with this professionalism referring to this. The agent looks at that prompt and says, yes, this is a very good prompt. So I'll act accordingly and write a very nice email, but writing this every single time is really a burden. Instead, once you have a prompt, a skill where you type /draft email, the moment you type it, you actually have the possibility to create a skill that can write an email of the same quality, and you can do this just with spoken language. You can proceed without any technical knowledge. There's actually no need to write a prompt again and explain the same process over and over for every email. Anthropic engineers work exactly like this on their tasks. They don't explain the function over and over again. They create the skill with the skill logic they've built and continue to use it. You can think of it like this. First, let's think in 3 layers. The first layer is our AI models. The second layer is AI agents and prompts. Let's say the prompts you give them. And the third layer is the skills. You were probably in the second layer until now, meaning you interacted with AI through prompts like this. You only interacted with AI agents through prompts as well. But the third layer is the application layer of the AI world. Think of it like this, the iPhone. We need applications on the iPhone. The iPhone is released, and then others release applications. And we do things by using those applications. In this case, Claude Code is our iPhone, but to do things within it, it can create our own applications using the skill logic. Skills are actually our applications. We create a skill for writing emails. We create a skill for managing the calendar. We can create another skill for a different task. The beauty here is we aren't dependent on apps made by others. We can do whatever we feel like doing. I'll show you an example right away. This is a repo I use most, one I've worked on before. If we ask how to turn it into a skill, look at my most frequent tasks and report them to me. Which ones can I turn into a skill? I'm telling it to say it right here. Now I'll give you an example. You can use a skill like this here. Look at the tasks I do most often. From these tasks, extract 5 to 10 skills for me from the repetitive parts. These should be repetitive tasks. I need to use my time better. I actually need to save my time. And you can say, give me examples of how skills can be made from this. The moment you give this prompt, it will start working and provide you with very good examples. As you can see on the screen, it generated 9 for me. And from these 9 examples, I'm picking whichever one I want, this skill. When I say create this for me, it starts creating it, because it already knows the problem. It thought about how to solve it and will now turn it into a skill. You can also use this method in your existing projects. Now we've come to our other layer. We're at layer 2. Skills are more than just a prompt. What does this mean? This actually means there's an art to creating skills, just like back in the days of prompt engineering with ChatGPT. You remember prompt engineering is the job of the future. Prompt engineering is everything. By the way, prompt engineering is truly important, but it has now evolved into skill engineering, even context engineering. We'll discuss those elsewhere. Creating a skill is actually very easy. You can create a skill just by writing, but as I said, creating the right skill is an art. To create this skill, you need to think in the right layers. There are 3 layers here as well. The first is the description layer. Actually, the description layer explains what the skill is to Claude Code, to Claude, to the language model. And this serves this purpose. Claude goes and checks the skills every single time. When it looks, it says automatically, okay, this skill does this. I can use it in these situations, so I'll use it. But if you don't provide a correct description, Claude can't find it automatically. You would have to call it yourself every time. In fact, without a proper description, you might even face technical issues while using the skill. That's why the description layer is the most important of Claude's 3 skill layers, and the more specific and well-structured you make it, the better results you'll get. The second layer is instructions. You can think of instructions as the playbook Claude follows when it receives the skill. In this playbook, you're basically explaining that in this situation you'll do this, in that situation you'll do that, and so on while working with the skill. It's essentially like a user manual for the skill. That's how Claude uses it. And the third layer is tools, meaning code scripts, API calls, reference files, whatever tools will be used in the skill. And this is exactly where a skill becomes much more than just a prompt. Most users actually struggle a bit with this third layer. Anthropic has already noticed this too. By the way, they're constantly analyzing where the problems are. One of the funniest things I've seen, and Eric from Anthropic says this, not me, one of the funniest things is that people put so much effort into creating really nice, detailed prompts, but the tools they give the model are completely empty. There's no documentation, parameters are just named A and B, an engineer couldn't use it, couldn't understand it. He asks, how is AI supposed to understand it? And he's absolutely right. People get stuck on the prompt and ignore the third layer, which is the tools. They only write descriptions, but since they don't specify how the tools will be used within that skill, the AI can get confused about what to do. This is very important. Anthropic engineers do the exact opposite. They focus on the tools. For example, they used a skill called creator domain. This is a skill made for control, domain control, and by creating a tool that programmatically checks domains, it can scan 10,000 domains all at once, instantly. Before this was impossible to do. You actually need to look at it with this logic too. You can do it like this here as well. Say, I want to create a skill for this specific task. Don't just write instructions. Think about it. Think about the tools. Which scripts, API calls, and reference models will there be? Create the skill accordingly. Make it deterministic. Include a small subscript in it as well. Deterministic is very important here because it will do this repeatedly to get the correct result. When you use this method, instead of just saying, create this skill for me, you'll see it makes a huge difference if you write this instead. Now we've come to the third part. They're building composable skills. They're not building custom skills. I'm talking about the approach of Anthropic engineers. As I said, everything in this video is about how Anthropic engineers use skills and Claude. So composability means the ability to create portable, efficient, and powerful skills that can work together, which is their perspective on skills from the Anthropic engineering blog. Don't let the technical terms intimidate you. Thanks to composable skills, multiple skills work together, and Claude automatically decides which one to use and can use them together. So instead of one giant skill that does everything, creating small skills specialized in specific tasks is much more beneficial for you. I've lived this, I've experienced it. I especially want to share this. I had created a skill related to content creation. I created a create content skill, and in this create content skill, it researches the competitor. Then it performs an analysis of the competitor. It finds video ideas from the analysis it produces. Then it writes titles from the video ideas. Then it writes the script and brings it to me. Then it was also making the social media post, but there was a problem when I did this. I saw that when one part breaks, it's impossible to fix the other. I only want to fix the competitor research, but this time it loses my tone. I fix my tone and it misses somewhere else. So it turns into an unmanageable, massive skill. But Anthropic engineers say to do the opposite. And I found out how to do the opposite by experimenting. First, I created a very good skill for competitor research. Then I created another very good skill for content creation, and Claude already learned to use them in this order automatically. This way, it became much more effective. On the other hand, it becomes an unmanageable situation. The reason for this is actually very simple. It works differently every single time. Each time it comes with different possibilities, different results, because artificial intelligence works differently. That's why when you do one of them well, when you improve it, the other one is good in small skills. But in the big picture, you might not know what will happen. The advantage here is that writing with these small skills, one, it's easily manageable. Problems can be easily identified, as I said. This is very important. Two, improvements, combine and grow. What does this mean? When you improve a skill related to YouTube, the skill to be used after it will also improve automatically. It will be automatically affected by its improvement. That's why it's important. Three, you reuse the skills. You don't need to build a new skill for a new task. Again, the YouTube skill will be useful elsewhere too. The other part can also be useful elsewhere, like a Lego piece. So going this way is the most logical. Now I'll give two technical patterns. Again, this comes from Anthropic. They explained exactly this at the AI Engineering Code Summit. There's something Claude does when applying styles to slides. Now our topic, our first technical pattern is this. Save subscripts inside the skill. Here's what they do. First, let me give examples of that. They notice that Claude, rewrites the same Python script over and over again to apply styles to slides. Yes, it rewrites the script. So it writes code from scratch every time just to apply a style. And instead, they ask Claude to embed the script inside the skill. Now, it just uses the script, runs it. It doesn't need to rewrite it. So there can be a script within the skill. So you can actually think of a script as a small piece of software. Claude used to write it in every session because it needed a script to be able to style it again. But when you embed the script again, they get the result directly. And this results in a deterministic outcome. Why? If the AI runs every time, it analyzes, thinks about it, reaches a conclusion, and draws a roadmap. So it might do something different each time, but when you provide a piece of code there, you make it deterministic. What does deterministic mean? It means if you give A, you get B. Now within that skill, at least within that part, when you embed the script, you give A and get B. You are standardizing this. This way, your skills become much more efficient. They become much more efficient inside with their own software. That's why I recommend you use it this way too. Especially if there's a script, you can have it analyzed in the same way. The AI uses less code, your tokens are consumed less because instead of rewriting the same part every time, it uses the well-written one and you get a more accurate result. It's much cheaper. Actually, using it correctly, using it well, and using it cheaply go hand in hand. If you're consuming a lot of tokens, you're probably using it wrong. Keep that in mind. Now we come to the other part. You need to control who calls what. First of all, Claude has added an important thing to its skills, a flag called user invocable. It has added two important flags. This is the first one. If you set this to false, you can't call the skill from the slash menu, like you normally would. So the user, whether it's you, me, or anyone else, cannot call this skill directly. It becomes a skill exclusive to AI agents. If it's a skill you don't want to think about, it's quite successful. Second, disable model invocation. This does the exact opposite. Only you can run it, the model cannot run that skill. Here for higher risk tasks, if you don't want the model to run that skill and you want to use it yourself, you can run this. I'm sure you haven't heard this. Most people don't know these flags, but they can make a big difference in usage because you only control some skills and you have nothing to do with others. So you just want the AI agents to use those skills. When you do this with Claude, it can actually work directly like this. You can also say something along the lines of, for example, this is my current skill setup, please perform an audit for me. Or you can activate this feature simply by talking to Claude and saying that you would like to put the invocation flag on these particular skills and place the other flags on those other ones. Now we've also included two patterns. Let's get to the final rule. Skills get smarter in every session. This is where Anthropic engineers really stand out. When you give Claude a prompt in one sentence, that prompt evaporates the moment you close the chat. But when you prompt with a skill, the skill stays, and you have the chance to sharpen it with every use. The engineering team explains it this way. This standardized format provides a very important guarantee. Everything Claude writes can be used efficiently by a future version of itself. Our goal is for Claude on the 30th day of working with you to be much better than it was on day one. In other words, Claude gathers insights about how you work. It learns your voice, your process, your workflow, and your goals. And it constantly improves itself, becoming better than before. How does this work in practice? When you run a skill, if the output isn't quite right, ask yourself one question. Is this a one-time fix? Or should it stay in the skill forever? If you'll really use it later too, update your skill. Change the rule, change the example, explain what you want more clearly. This way, this improvement will become a skill that works better for you later. Think of it like training an employee. You have AI agents you've hired. These are your micro-employees. You need to train them at certain points so they do the best job for you. Most people skip this, run the skill, get the output, and move on. Or they say this skill didn't work well. No, everything is actually subjective. What you want, your AI, your employees, are unique to you. That's why you need to improve them. Now we've arrived. At the end, let's step back and take a look. We said we have 4 layers. First, use skills, not prompts. Second, run tools, not just skills with prompts. Third, make composable skills. Instead of huge skills, have small, much better ones that can work together automatically. And that's the third one. And fourth, constantly improve your skills so that an evolving, better system emerges for you. We also had patterns. I actually included 2 patterns. Save scripts inside the skill and control who calls what. These are very important points. As you can see, you really do not need to be an engineer in order to use Claude at the level of the engineers at Anthropic. Once you establish simple logic and learn these, you can use it at their level too. They also explicitly state how you should use it. All the topics I mentioned in this video, even if I shared my own ideas and experiences, come from usage scenarios shared by Anthropic engineers. In the next video, Boris Cherny, the creator of Claude Code, also has some great insights and tips. Let me know in the comments if you're interested. I'll talk about his insights and tips in the next video. These are very important. Now, Claude Code AI is our right hand. It's our way of doing business. Excel and so on, it's all history now. Now, AI is our co-worker. That's why using AI correctly will take you forward today, but it will take you much further in the future. So taking these steps correctly is very important. Thank you so much for watching. I'd be happy if you liked the video. It actually shows me that I should keep making videos like this. I'm getting the signal. As I said, you can also leave a comment. If you follow the channel, you won't miss out on these videos. See you in the next video.